30 seconds and counting.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And today a press conference was held, or should I say maybe like a virtual press conference with some reporters from both the Cavaliers and the Rockets with Evan Mobley. I believe that he had a workout, not sure if it was with a team or if it was in private, but he did have a workout. And following that, there was a press conference and a lot of interesting tidbits and quotes coming out of it from Evan Mobley that I think are pretty relevant for the Houston Rockets and their draft decision. Again, mutual interest from the prospect is one of the most important things to look at when you're trying to pick a prospect. And so far, we didn't really get a lot from Evan Mobley's camp as far as his interest in going to the Houston Rockets. They've been very quiet in general as far as their decision or who they want to be with. Whereas if you look at the other guys like Cade Cunningham, he was spotted in Detroit a couple of days ago. He said that he's fine with being in Detroit. Jalen Green, of course, we know all that he's been doing to sort of, I guess, show interest that he wants to be in Houston. But Mobley was pretty quiet up until now, obviously. And here, there's a lot of interesting information that could suggest that he would be perfectly fine with joining the Houston Rockets, starting with probably the most obvious quote that suggests a show of interest, and that is Evan Mobley saying that he would be excited to join the Rockets if they did pick him. And again, this is about as plain and simple as you can get, right? You asked him, would you want to be in the Houston Rockets uniform? And he says, yes, I would be perfectly happy and I'd be excited to join the Rockets. But again, there's a lot more in depth as far as more specific questions, and a lot of them giving a lot of interesting aspects as far as how Evan Mobley perceives the Houston Rockets roster before joining and being a part of the team. He really does seem like he does know a lot about this roster, and that he's really interested in potentially joining.
Yeah, and Evan Mobley also speaks on the potential of being selected by the Rockets, considering we do have the second overall pick. And so he says that they're a very young team, very athletic. That's very exciting. And so, yes, Evan Mobley is really young too, and he fits our time frame, obviously, being 20 years old, and is very athletic too. I think Mobley, we'll talk more on his athleticism later, but Mobley kind of fits that as well. And yeah, I think Mobley would be a great fit for us. Just from a talent aspect and a fit aspect, I think he just checks those boxes. And in terms of the Rockets showing mutual interest, the Rockets have kind of held their hand pretty close. I feel like Stone had this press conference at like the Houston Food Bank, like a kind of impromptu press conference or whatever. And he says that they haven't made a guaranteed decision on who they're going to draft. So it seems like it's still up in the air. He says he doesn't want to like leave out any possibilities and just keep working and working until like the very until it's time to draft, basically. So Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, they're still both up in the air. And so yeah, that's like the position the Rockets are taking right now.
And back on the point of Evan Mobley and what he has been looking to and what he's seen out of the Houston Rockets roster, Mobley has stated this isn't really specifically about the Rockets, but he does say that he wants to be in the best situation possible, and he did say that he would like to play alongside versatile offensive players like Christian Wood, and he thinks that it would be a cool fit to be next to Christian Wood, and that makes sense, right? Evan Mobley, again, most of his drawbacks or his downsides do come on the offensive side of the ball. And so putting him next to a big man who is so good offensively, like Christian Wood, who, again, Christian Wood, there aren't that many flaws in his offensive game. You can maybe point to his lack of playmaking or maybe his lack of ability to get to the line and make free throws. But besides that, Christian Wood is a very, very good offensive player. And so it makes sense that Evan Mobley would be tantalized by potentially being put next to him. And it's nice that he has seen this before, being told that he's going to be drafted by them or anything like that. And it's pretty obvious that he has spent the time to look at the roster and see how he can fit. And I think he's echoing what we, as Rockets fans, have thought about for a while now, which is that him and Christian Wood, would be a very, very good fit, a dynamic front court that we haven't seen in a while, and it's something that could be very, very dangerous.
Along with like pairing up with Christian Wood, they kind of cover each other's weaknesses in a sense. Like Mobley, he's great inside the paint and everything, but Christian Wood kind of helps him along with that perimeter offense that Mobley may lack just early on in his career. So I think that, and then Mobley makes up for Christian Wood's defensive lapses in a sense. So it kind of works well in that regard. And when he talks about the best situation possible, like just looking at the top three teams, the Rockets, the Detroit Pistons, and the Cavaliers, you can argue that Houston is the best situation possible in terms of market wise, coach wise, teammates, I guess. I mean, not to say that the Cavaliers and Pistons are garbage teams. It's just that the Rockets, I think, out of those three teams, have the best situation out of all three of them. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. And Mobley also shares that he wasn't able to showcase his athleticism completely while in college due to how compact the game at that level is. He then says he's going to surprise people with his ability to shoot as well. And I think Mobley's athleticism is getting really underrated. I think for a guy who's 7 foot tall to move the way he's moving, like with fluid hips and everything, being able to go from one side of the court to the other side is really incredible. And for a guy of his stature, his size, to move that well, that really speaks on how much athleticism he has.
Yeah, and maybe expanding a little bit more on what he said in that quote about him not really being able to showcase his athleticism and his ability to shoot. A lot of that has to contribute with the fact that the college court is a lot more condensed. It's smaller physically than an NBA court is. And because of that, the spacing, regardless of the quality of the shooters that you have, if you put that same team on an NBA court, everyone on that team is going to shoot better, including Evan Mobley. And so that's why the Jalen Green comparisons are skewed. While yes, Jalen Green is technically shooting from a longer 3 point line than in college, Evan Mobley also has to deal with a more condensed court. And so it makes sense what Mobley is saying that, hey, I'm going to shoot better in the league than I am in college because number one, he'd never had the best spacing around him in college anyway, right? He was not playing with the best shooters. And that in itself made it hard for him to knock down consistent 3 point jump shots at a high clip. And the condensed court makes it harder for him to get those open looks on his own if he's trying to create off the dribble. The spacing was just never there for him, and that does make it harder for him to sort of shoot at a high level. And so this quote makes perfect sense. And again, this versatility is why so many people are interested in him, and he speaks on his versatility himself in this little clip here that we're going to show you right now from the press conference.
I feel like my agility and length and defensive presence is my top main things that make me different. I feel like I can guard almost every position and move my feet very well. As well on the offensive end, I can shoot the ball on a pretty uh, well clip, and then as well as put it on the floor, run the floor as well, really good. So that's some aspects I feel like that are a little bit different and are better than other bigs.
Now, Mobley, he does think that he's going to be a high impact player no matter who he lands with in the draft. And again, there's no reason to believe that the Rockets aren't a team that he can have a super high impact on with all that he brings.
In terms of like impact for the Rockets, Mobley would definitely help with the rim protection issues, rebounding issues, overall defense issues that we had. I think right after the Harden trade with Victor Oladipo, we did show a really good defensive rating, but that kind of stagnated as the season went on. So Mobley definitely helps with those issues as well. And Mobley shares that he wants to join a team that really believes in him and believes he can be an impact player immediately. He wants them to trust in him and develop him into a better player. And yeah, a lot of people have had concerns about how long it takes to develop bigs, but Mobley is a little different in that regard. It's just a lot of people are saying that Mobley's like one of the best big man prospects since Carl Anthony Towns, and I feel like that's a fair assessment. He's not like your James Wiseman's or Marvin Bagley. I think Mobley is, as a prospect, better than that, and I think he is an impact player. Like he can be an impact player no matter what team he goes to, if not the Rockets. But yeah, I think we have one of the better coaching staffs. Like I said, Silas, John Lucas, Troy Weaver. So yeah, I think Mobley will be placed in a great situation here if we were to draft him.
And again, with Evan Mobley, he has so much that can make him a high impact player. I think what Anish you just said about the defensive rating and how good we were defensively in that small stretch after the Harden trade. It's a small sample size, yes, but a lot of that was tangible, and it's something that can carry over if you have the right defensive anchor. And that's exactly what Evan Mobley is. Evan Mobley has the potential to basically lock up the opposing team's best player, regardless of what position they play, whether they're a 7 foot big man like a Joel Embiid, or if they're a shifty, quick guard like maybe like a Chris Paul or a Kyrie Irving. Okay, maybe not Kyrie Irving, but someone like that, a smaller guard even, he is able to guard up and play great defense on. And that defensive versatility is why he's going to be a high impact player regardless of who he lands with in the draft. And especially if that is Houston, that defensive presence, especially when our previous front court anchor and Christian Wood isn't the best defender, that's going to be a beautiful fit for the Rockets and for Evan Mobley. Now, again, with the Rockets, a lot of the smoke coming out of the organization right now is saying that they're leaning towards Jalen Green. But I think there is no doubt about it that if Evan Mobley is the one taken, there's no reason to believe that the Rockets aren't going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Evan Mobley has the best team around him to succeed. Again, the Rockets have a very good track record of putting help around their star player to put them in a position to succeed, whether it was with James Harden over the past few years or whether it was with Hakeem in the championship years. The Rockets have a good history of putting help around their stars and helping them win championships or at least compete for a championship, even if they're not able to get to the ultimate level. And so, especially if you compare it with a team like Cleveland, where they are notorious for not putting the top help around their superstar, like with LeBron James. We saw twice that they just let him kind of carry the team and never really bothered to try to help him with a co-star or anything like that. And with Detroit, it's nothing better. They ever since the 2003 era with the Bad Boy Pistons, they haven't really been able to get a situation where they're competing, and a lot of that is because of an incompetent front office. Whereas in Houston, you have the James Harden era, where you have pretty much every single season, James Harden had a co-star around him, whether it was Dwight Howard, whether it was Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. And that track record, I think, is a good sign that Evan Mobley, if he does come to Houston, he's going to have an absolutely splendid career, and he's going to have the help that he needs to perform at a high level and succeed at a high level.
Yeah, and Evan Mobley also says that I think I'll be a generational player that nobody has seen before. I'm going to keep working and stay in the gym until I get there. And a lot of people were questioning Evan Mobley's work ethic, his passion for basketball, but just hearing him say that just kind of gives a sigh of relief in a sense, that he's has that work ethic, that he's willing to improve, and it's good that he has high goals for himself. He's very ambitious, and given his tools, he can have a ceiling of a generational type player, if everything just clicks, And so, and Evan Mobley has also said in a previous interview that he models his game after future Hall of Famers in Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And again, with KD and Giannis, again, it's not a guarantee that Evan Mobley plays like KD or Giannis. Again, with his game, I don't think that there's a lot of KD or Giannis in there, but the fact that he is modeling Giannis and KD doesn't necessarily have to mean that he's looking to play exactly like them. He could be modeling Giannis with his work ethic or his the way he built weight, which is absolutely critical for Evan Mobley to reach the next level. He's gonna have to add some muscle, and if he can look to Giannis as a way for him to add that muscle, that's absolutely a perfect role model for him to use to sort of get that muscle, help him on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball. And as far as Kevin Durant, he could use Kevin Durant to model his offensive game. If maybe he doesn't want to build up the extra muscle, maybe stay lean, then he can look at Kevin Durant to model his offensive game off of. Kevin Durant's handles, his shiftiness, his pull-up game, all of that. That's stuff that you can model off of Kevin Durant. And I think that's maybe what Mobley was getting at. Instead of exactly, oh, I'm going to play like Giannis or I'm going to play like Kevin Durant, just take bits and pieces from each of their games and sort of mold it to sort of fit Evan Mobley and sort of make his own self and his own version of it. Instead of trying to be the next KD or the next Giannis, he could just be Evan Mobley, taking some stuff from Kevin Durant, from Giannis, helping him be the best possible player that he can be. Now, Evan Mobley, he wants to differentiate from the other prospects in that he is not just an average pick. He says he's Evan Mobley. He's not anyone else. He's trying to do his best wherever I go. And that, quote, I'm just trying to show that I'm the best version of me. And this kind of ties into what we were saying earlier about him modeling his game after Giannis or KD. He just wants to be the best version of himself, and he wants to be in a situation that will help him be that way. And I think Houston is a perfect place for that. Again, we have a great track record with player development. We have pieces around him that can help him compete and get to the next level pretty quickly. And we have a front office that'll be willing to do what it takes for him to win championships and also for him to be the best player that he can individually. I think really the fit is seamless as far as situation and front office and putting around him a group of people and a group of players that will help him be as successful as possible. I think the fit is absolutely there, and it's there probably about as good as you can get for Evan Mobley, especially if you compare him to the situations in Detroit and Cleveland where they don't have the track record of supporting their stars.
And when you talk about like fit and situation, Evan Mobley says he wants to win a championship, and then he goes on to say multiple championships for the team that drafts him. And when you look at our team right now, when you add Evan Mobley to that mix, you're looking at a lineup of possibly just for this next season, John Wall, Kevin Porter Jr., Jay Tate, Christian Wood, and Evan Mobley, and we have the second most draft picks in the next like couple of years. And so that's definitely like a dynasty worthy team. Obviously, Wall's in our long term plans or whatever. But if Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood take those leaps that they're destined to take, and Evan Mobley just be that anchor for us, I think this team can win a championship. Like at the very least by 2025 or something. Maybe 4 years from now, I don't know, but that could be a little optimistic. But I think the sky is the limit for Evan Mobley and this team in general. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Evan Mobley was drafted here, what our future would look like.
And again, with the Rockets, the situation here, we probably have the best track record of any team in the league as far as putting a team around a player that's going to compete for a championship. We saw this with James Harden, right? We consistently put a team around him that overachieved. If you compare those teams with the teams around them, they performed way better than a team of their talent level should have. They took probably the best team ever to the limit. And again, without harping too much on the past, it just goes to show that there's a track record in Houston that Detroit or Cleveland doesn't have. Cleveland is notorious for not helping their superstar. And for a guy like Mobley who wants to win a championship and win multiple championships for the team that drafted him, that's probably not the best idea. You probably want to go to a team that is known for putting help around their star, and that's what Houston is. And I think if you're Mobley, the choice is obvious here as far as who you want to go to, whether it is Houston or Cleveland. I think it's pretty obvious that Houston's the choice, right? Whether you're looking at the cities themselves, the organization, or the players that you're going to be surrounded with, I think Houston is a pretty obvious choice. And I think Mobley's expressing that interest too. I think it's pretty obvious that we know that at this point, where he wants to be, because for a while now we've all been thinking, okay, what's Mobley gonna say? Like, Mobley hasn't said anything for a while now. What is on his mind? And finally he does speak to the media, and I think at now that he has, it's pretty obvious where he wants to go, and it is Houston. Now that will wrap it up. As always, thanks for watching. Let us know down in the comment section, did any of this change your mind as to your thoughts on Evan Mobley? Or if you are already someone who thinks that we should take Evan Mobley, how did this continue to improve your decision? Or if it affected your decision at all, let us know down in the comment section if you want to see Evan Mobley on the Houston Rockets, and we'll talk about it there. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. I'm Joel, and I was joined today by Anish. Thanks for watching.